Welcome back to the Driven Leadership Podcast, everybody. Today is a really cool episode. Eric got excited about it and said verbatim, wow, that's a really good idea for a topic, when in fact it was written by him several months ago.
Welcome to McGrath.
So we're talking about how to build confidence, and that's step number one. Write ideas down, forget about them, get somebody else to repeat them back to you, and be like, wow.
Wow.
That was great.
Wow, that was a good one.
That person's really smart, whoever came up with that.
That's so funny. But yeah, we're talking about confidence, which is an interesting topic. I'm excited to see and hear where you guys go with this. And not only just what confidence is, but also how to build it, how to develop it, grow it, all those things. So, Eric, where would you like to start with this brilliant topic?
It's so good. You know, we've done all these trainings for years, and this one shows up over and over and over and over again.
Like
an
issue with confidence,
where people want to know how to. This is a muscle everybody wants to build. You know, even when you are confident and get into whatever we classify or call that, or define that as. But even when you're confident, it's one of those things you never get there. You're constantly growing in, you're constantly working to be better in. Yet most of us don't know where the levers are. Most of us just go through life. And at least for me, I'll speak for myself. I grew up, and I think we've done this on other podcasts, but I grew up very unconfident. I did not have a lot of confidence, and it's something I'm always working on. I mean, it's something I develop into, but I get people all the time that are like, gosh, you're so confident. And I'm like, I'm different than sometimes, but where does it come from? How do you do it? And along the way, especially doing all these leadership trainings, not just training others, but going through them myself and being involved with them, you start to realize where the levers are. Where can you actually apply effort and energy and force sometimes to be able to create more confidence. But I think the place to start is just defining confidence. And
well, before we get there, Mary, what's your experience and your thoughts around this?
We're going to let her talk during this.
I know.
Well, you told me before that you didn't want to, but I'm trying to build some confidence.
Sent the invite.
Build some confidence. You know, it's interesting because I actually had very much a love-hate relationship with the word confidence. Sometimes I still do, because people would say to me, "You're just not confident," and it would trigger me into spiraling into that I'm not good enough. And it was interesting because there were times that I felt really good about myself, and people would say, well, you just need to work on your confidence. And I really believe that confidence, well, we'll get into what it is. For me it's the belief that we have in ourselves, the belief that we have in taking action, not taking someone else's opinion of ourselves, but really stepping in and owning where we are and what we want and taking action within it. Self-talk is huge, and we absolutely can always grow in it. But I really believe it starts with this assuredness. And I had to flip the script and realize that it wasn't someone else's opinion of who I am or who they want me to be. It was being okay with where I was right now and being willing to learn and grow in it. So funny story. Well, it's not funny, but it actually made me think about this today because I was getting my nails done.
Sad.
I know.
That means if Mary goes that way, funny story. Oh, it's not.
Well,
funny.
it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. I was getting my nails done today, and I got blue nails, for those of you who can see. And that's the thing that always stretches me. But there was this lady that was sitting next to me. She came in, she sat down, beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, she was so beautiful. And I looked, and her hair was like spot on. And I said, I love your hair. And she goes, oh, thanks. She says, it's Friday. And I'm thinking she's going to say something better then. She goes, I just don't feel good about myself and I just need to fill me up. And I was like, and it's those times that you look at people and you see something and we never know what's going on the inside of them. And those are, I just wanted to shake her up and like, no, believe in yourself. If you could just see who I see right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's awesome.
That was Eric and me when he got, if you could just see what I see right now in relation to confidence.
What are your thoughts there, Eric? Defining it. We'll get back into your thought.
I heard somebody say, and this stuck with me, was that real confidence is how we walk into the unknown. So a lot of people are super confident in our routines and our habits and things that we do. Like if you hit the sweet spot, but it's how do we walk into the things that we're unsure about and maybe we've never done, and how do we step into those? And that's one of the best places to have a great practice ground. I don't know if that's the technical definition of confidence, but for me, it was a real barometer, you know, okay, I've never even thought about practicing or working on how I step into the unfamiliar. I was always working on being confident in the things that I do consistently. I couldn't even get that down. So might as well doing something I've never done before. What do you mean? Be confident in something you've never done before? How does that work?
Well, so how does that work? How do you practice that? What does that look like?
For me, I'm going to boil confidence down into something overly simplistic and downright silly, but it's completely true. It is the thoughts that we have and what we focus on. That's it. And so I know we started talking about ourselves with this, and I don't know if that's where we want to stick with, but I do want to, I'll give the kind of my background around confidence, because it's a part of why I got into this career is because I got to see, I wouldn't say I made a full transition, but I transitioned from the bottom of the barrel in a lot of cases, zero confidence, to really having some confidence. And I'd say walking into situations and going, man, I'm good at this. I'm not an arrogant way, but like going, man, I've got this. Right. And so when I grew up, and while my parents loved me deeply, they were not, they were overly perfectionistic. My dad was an engineer and an architect and just kind of want things exact, very poor social skills. And God loved my mom, but especially when I was younger, not a whole lot of emotional intelligence on understanding social dynamics. So my mom is loud and kind of crazy and disruptive and just says weird things at times. Okay. And my dad is overly conservative, uptight, doesn't want to say the wrong thing, wants everything exactly right. Okay. And why these two got married, I still don't know.
They sound like a sitcom couple.
It literally was like a Seinfeld episode every single day. But a lot of arguments and a lot of chaos and disruption and frustration in the home as I was growing up. And so I took a lot of that on. And so I had an overly loud, if you want to call it that, kind of personality, and I'd create more chaos is what came out of it. And so that chaos, that disruption, when it got it, I didn't know no social skills. So on my dad's side, say nothing, stick to yourself, don't go anywhere. My mom's side, say absolutely things that are just top of mind that have nothing to do with anything and be all over the place.
Yeah.
So I walk in to make friends and I just couldn't do it. And so I really didn't feel very overly accepted growing up. And then on top of that, they didn't have a lot of money. So I remember when bell bottoms were not cool, I was wearing bell bottoms.
You were wearing them?
Yeah. What? I remember, wow. I mean, like big bell bottoms, like the Gong Show bell bottoms. Like they were like 70s clothes I'm wearing in the 80s. In the 80s, they were pegging their legs and I'm wearing bell bottoms. And anyway, and I remember in high school, so I'm in high school, and the only thing I really had that I felt sure about was running and soccer. Those are my two things. Put me on a soccer field, put me racing. I was racing cross country and distance runs and things like that. It was good. And I knew that feeling. And then I get around my grandparents and they constantly made me feel like I was better. Like they were constantly building me up. There was a lot of positive. There was a lot of empowerment. There was a lot of, you can do this. My grandfather on my mom's side owned businesses. It was just like, just kind of had this natural confidence about him, and I got to see it, but I didn't see that a whole. Anyway, long story short, I get into high school, and I was the kid that went to the library and ate by himself. Okay, I was that guy. Okay, so I go to the library, I'd sit there, and I would hide. They had these cubicle things, and I kind of hide so I didn't have to deal with anybody, because that was straight get picked on time.
Yeah,
and it was like, I want to say it was my sophomore year, and I'm still in this, and the library was closed, and I was forced to go into the cafeteria. I just remember that episode being highly emotional and not a good time. Okay. Yeah. And funny enough, that was the same year I made the varsity soccer team. And so, and I'm running track, and I got out there, and I was good at something. And all of a sudden I started going, hold up, these people are actually not picking on me. Like, they're good at something. And I also went away, and I don't know if it was that year or the year before, I went away to a camp that was like a summer camp kind of thing. And I got to kind of recreate myself. And I was like, you know what? I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to go in this camp. Nobody knows me. I had some clothes that weren't bell bottoms, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to just be confident. When I'm not confident, I'm going to fake it. I'm going to own my stuff. And I walked in there, and everybody was my friend. I was like the popular kid at the camp. And I was like, this is a thing. So long story short, those kind of transition moments when I went off to college, I went, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And I just shifted my mind, and I went, you know what? Nobody knows me, and some did, but nobody knows me. I'm going to step into this. And it was just a mindset of, I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to go to parties that I'm not comfortable with. I'm going to talk to that girl that I don't know how to talk to. And I'm going to just do it. I'm going to just do the things. And I wake up, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd wake up in the morning, and my normal routine was I'd beat myself up. So my normal routine through high school is I'd wake up in the morning, I'd go brush my teeth or do whatever. I'd look myself in the mirror, and it was just like, I didn't know I was doing it, but I was like, that's it there again. That, at the time my hairline was already receding, whatever it was, I'd find all the flaws and the faults. And so I started my day with habits of pointing out what was wrong and my flaws and the things that were taking place. And so when I went to college, I'm like, well, that doesn't work. And I really hadn't read any books or anything, but I get up, and when I walk up to the mirror, I'd like look at myself, and I started going, and I literally was like, you look freaking good. I would say it to myself.
It's a Mel Robbins moment.
It really, and here's the thing. I give Mary such a hard time over the Mel Robbins high five and all these things, because they drive me crazy. But I've been doing them my whole life by accident. Yeah. Long story short, or long story long at this point, but the self-perception, the self-conversation, the self-dialogue, the walking on the soccer field, and I wasn't as concerned about whether I hit the ball right or whether I did it exactly perfect or all these things went on. I walked on the soccer field, and I said, you know what? I belong here. And whether I make a mistake or not, I'm still going to execute. Or walking into a social situation, and I would literally say these stupidest things, not on purpose, but I think it was my mom speaking through me, and I'd say, a girl has nice hair, and I go, gosh, those are interesting colors. I would say stuff like that. And I do learn, but as you do it and you quit worrying about whether or not you're being accepted and judged, and that's not easy. So I would still I'd still be worried about being accepted and judged, but I would tell myself I'm okay even if I am. Yeah. And that shift in conversation, what happens over time is you start to rewrite it, and you stop going, I'm worried about what everybody thinks, and I'm worried about being judged, to people are going to think weird things, and I'm going to be judged, and I'm going to be perfectly okay anyway, because I'm all good. I know who I am. Yeah. And so anyway, that was a long story about me, but what we've seen in training, and Mary and I watch it as we go in and we train these classes, is when you meet somebody who doesn't have good self-talk and good self-perception, in the first 5 seconds,
they crush on themselves. Ooh.
Immediately you can see it, because they have different, and we all know how to recognize it. We know how to recognize confidence very quickly. And what you're actually picking up on is how do they talk to themselves and how do they perceive themselves. And so and when you see somebody that's confident, you go, wow, they perceive themselves well. So we should perceive them well. And we start to go, well, they see it, so I guess I should see it. And we step into it. But if they don't see it, then if they're not going to see it in themselves, we don't see it in them either right away. And we make certain assessments and judgments off of that.
Yeah. And confidence is interesting because there's also the ego and it's different. I really believe that a really authentic, a good confidence isn't ego driven, because when people get into the ego as I'm the shit, I've got this, usually underneath they're scared to death and they don't. So confidence, to Eric's point, 100% is what we believe, how we believe in ourselves and the things that we say to ourselves. And I'm going to go on a limb, but I'm sure 100% of people, it is where they've learned things. They've learned through adversity. I love what you said, Eric, is how do we respond in the unknown in those moments? And we always have a choice. And when hard stuff happens, what do we tell ourselves? What do we do? You know, we talk about running to the roar. Whether you do it afraid or not, confidence comes from that place of I'm feeling scared. I'm freaking out, yet I'm going to do it anyways. Who am I? You know, I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. And there is a shift. We all have ups and downs. We all have moments that we get terrified in. And if you stop and pause and realize, so for me, it was visualization where it truly started to connect, is I had to picture myself in these moments of what I wanted to do, feel, be, starting with the training. Oh my gosh, when I first started training, I was, and we talked about this in the imposter syndrome, I was terrified someone would ask me the letters behind my name. And I mean, underneath, I was freaking out. My heart would be pounding nonstop. And when we shifted and we got into driven, and actually had a guy go, okay, what's your pedigree? What's your pedigree? And there was a shift in me that said, I don't care what people think. Like, there's different people for different people. And you don't want to do business with everyone. And when I would get into these moments where I knew I was going to speak or I was going to do something different, it was something new. Because once I knew and I owned my craft and I was able to do the same thing over and over and over, there's confidence in when you practice and hone it and practice and hone it. But when it's new and it's terrifying, I would visualize myself in that moment. I would see myself with my shoulders back, with me delivering, having fun, watching people engage, watching the lights come on. I'd put myself there and I would put myself there and I put myself there. And then I would journal and I would do affirmations and you've got this. And yes, I do the crazy things in the mirror. And Eric and I text back and forth. My kids, you got this, Mom. I'm like, I got this. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
And those are the moments I really believe where confidence, where people can build it, where it starts to shift, is the believability that you've got this. No matter what happens, giving yourself grace to fail forward, but getting back up and owning that piece. I've got this. I'm going to figure this out, instead of crushing on yourself, going, you're a failure. Okay, so what did I learn?
You know, you just hit two topics that I think are important. One is this pendulum, I feel like, between confidence and arrogance. And the other that you kind of tiptoed into, but I think is vital to this, especially when people are looking to make a shift, is the support structure they're surrounded by.
The confidence and arrogance thing is, Mary, you mentioned earlier that you have this, you've struggled with the confidence and like being kind of forward against it. Is the arrogance play into that? Is that what your struggle was in the past with like reckoning how to talk about confidence? Or is it, was it a different?
It was where someone else was telling me I wasn't confident. And then I would have to critique people if they were confident or not. And I knew what it did to me when someone says, you're not confident. It would crush me even harder because I was already struggling with certain self-talk or certain things. And so even to this day, I look at when we give critique on presence, I look for real feedback that would help them, not to completely destroy when they're already going, I don't have confidence. Well, they're standing up there. They got up there.
So really, when we talk about this pendulum of arrogance and confidence, you could almost argue that there's a third swing. Confidence is in the middle. Arrogance is on one side, and being overly self-critical is that other other side.
Well,
but I want to get back into the arrogance and confidence piece since you brought it up, Eric.
Well, no, so I think that is the pendulum we're talking about. So yeah, self-critical, which would appear as clarity of just not having confidence. People might put it in that category. Yes, you got truly confident, where they're just self-assured and they're in a space,
the flow state.
Yeah, it's a cool space. And then you got arrogance, which is really the exact same. It's the exact same stuff as the person that you would say is insecure is arrogance. Yeah. So if I see someone who is arrogant, I go, oh, they're insecure.
Oh, I see.
So because what they're doing is they're just outwardly competitively compensating.
Yeah.
So you get somebody that's like got the larger than life personality, and they're walking around like, I'm the deal, I'm at the gym, and you got the, all that. What they're doing, they're competing on a core need of significance. They need to feel important. The reason that core need is so huge and that they have to constantly, I'm important. I have a bigger car. I have a bigger house. Look at all my stuff. And they're kind of living in that space is because underneath they do not feel as though they are adequate enough or they are enough, or there's this hole that's going on underneath. So the significant core need never gets filled. So arrogance is the outward expression of insecurity from an aggressive competitive standpoint. They're in comparison mode, because to need to be significant is in significance compared to someone else. So therefore I don't feel significant in comparison. So comparison becomes, and obviously, I think most people know, if I live in comparison, constantly worry what everybody else thinks, what they're doing and what's going on, then I'm not going to measure up on all fronts. You never are. Yeah. You measure up on some fronts. You won't measure up on other fronts. And then it's left with an insecurity that's underneath. You compensate with that insecurity by showing meekness and surrendering to it, which is the one side. Or the other side is I get big and I act arrogant and I overcompensate for it. But you don't need to overcompensate or be insecure if you're just kind of sitting there and it doesn't impact you. You're just kind of like, you're self-assured in where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so how does the support structure, I think this is a good place to start bringing the plane down, lowering the altitude on the conversation. Because I think we've really, really well-defined confidence to really, we're talking about self-belief really at the end of the day. And I think what you both said and how you both defined it of walking into the unknown, somebody's going to be a lot more willing to walk into the unknown if they're confident, if they have a belief in themselves to be able to open the door and step through. So it's this, at the core, if you pull the lid off of confidence, underneath it is just pure self-belief. And that's influencing the confidence that comes outwardly. So as we talk about how to, or as we have talked about how to develop it and be aware of it, build it up in yourself, how does support structure play into this whole conversation?
Well, we are who we surround ourselves with. I believe it 100%. And when you have people who want you to succeed, they will help elevate your self-talk. You've got this. I'll take the example of my grandkids, right? Because not mine, our grandkids. And we've watched...
She takes ownership there.
Right. Landon with soccer, Kellen with wrestling, Bridget with volleyball. And just even with the athletes that we work with, you could be having a really good match, game, whatever that is. And you watch their confidence go up. It's believability. I've got this. They'll take more risks. They'll do different things because they're in this flow state. When they make a mistake, if they don't stay in the headspace, then you can watch just their whole body language, their self-talk, they crush, and then they just keep making mistake. And where the support is, even as grandparents, is Nani and Pops, or as a mentor or coach, come on, you got this. Your support to keep you in, come on, shake it off. Well, what can you do? When you have someone in your corner that is coming alongside you and wants to elevate you, not looking at what's wrong, come on, shake it off. it helps people reset. And so in our life, it's so important to have people in your corner that want you to reset. Sometimes people, when you have people who are going after things and they're taking that risk and they aren't happy about who they are, their support structure, you won't see them helping reset. They'll feed into the self-talk. So you want people who are in your corner that want to push you to go further than you think you are, not to, what I was going to say, not elevate. What's the opposite word of elevate?
Drag you down.
Drag you down.
I was going to say opposite of elevate would be like descend, but I don't know if it fits.
But you think about that. Have you ever seen those people who are crushing their goals? They're going after, they're doing the extra work, they're dedicated, they're driven, and they have a group of friends or family members, people in their life who mean well, but they're not with them, and they pull them back.
I feel like when we're unconfident, what the dialogue in our head is working against us getting to where we want to, right? So it's I don't know, I'm going to learn how to swim. And we look at the water and our conversation in our head is, I'm going to die. I'm going to drown. I can't do this. Like if that's where somebody's at and they're in pure terror mode, and then you see them get in the water and they're just like, they can't learn anything. They can't do anything because they're so focused on, they get into survival mode because they're going to die. Yeah. Okay. So that's when the enemy of our confidence is internal. So when it's internal, that's the enemy. This isn't getting me where I want. And when I'm not in it, when I'm not near a swimming pool, I can rationalize that and go, man, I'm crushing on it. I know I can do better, but I'm getting overwhelmed. And so when the enemy's internal, that means the external becomes so important. Right. So if I'm surrounded by 10 people that are going, you can do this, and they're encouraging me and they're supporting me and they're helping me, my internal's going, I can't, but these 10 people are around me and they're all there. I'm like, okay, maybe I can. We get influenced, but you combine these two and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't swim. And everybody around you is like, yeah, you idiot, you can't swim.
Yeah. Or they leave you, or they don't even want to help you. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And they're gone. Yeah. And they leave you drowning.
So the within without conversation, if within is not, and I don't want to make ourselves the enemy. That's the wrong way to look at it, because you're never your own enemy.
Sometimes,
but you have habits. We all have habits that are not what we want. They're not connecting the dots the way we want to. And so when we're talking about confidence and we're connecting the dots not the way we want to, we need to pay attention to how we're connecting them externally. How are people working with us? And not just people. So it could be I was using my morning routine before. So my external my routine that I go through is an external support structure. So how do I make that more positive? Yeah.
That's actually a really good point, because I was going to ask in your story of that transition from ultimately like high school to college, I'm sure there may have been some people in that, but the focal point of that story was your own internal dialogue and then setting up external things to help you get out of that loop. So I think because I really sympathize with people who may be listening and they feel like they're on an island. They don't feel like they have that support structure, and it's just like, okay, great. Like I'm just going to be on my own until I go find somebody, but I don't believe in myself enough to go find those people. There are things that you can do, like you're saying, those the things that are in your environment every day that can set you up for success and marginally help you and then promote you to get even further down the road. Like start somewhere with it.
So there's an interesting paradigm to this, and that is, so in today's world, information is ready. You can get anywhere you can figure out. You want to shift out of being having negative self-talk and you want to move to positive, you can literally type into Chat GPT, how do I do this? And it'll give you probably a 20-step guide that walks you through it. You do those, you're going to have an impact. Written by psychologists, more than likely, right?
Yeah.
But people don't do it.
That's fair.
Okay. So why aren't they doing it? Why aren't you, if you want to shift your confidence, Why aren't you doing it? Because the how-to is everywhere. So that means if the how-to isn't the issue, it's the why. It's the emotional behind it. And if you don't want to, it's because you're getting something out of not being confident. And I'm speaking to myself. I'm going to go back to my story. It got painful enough to where I was like, you know what? I want to redo this. But the reality was, when I wasn't confident, even though I was in the lunchroom and all these things that were going on, man, I got so much attention. People felt sorry for me. My family like kicked gloves with me. You know, it was like all this was going on. I was getting all this attention through being this doormat. And so it's more complex than that. But the reality is, if you're in today's world, you listen to this podcast, literally, you want to change your confidence, type into chat, do that. You can put it in your calendar. You can hook an AI agent up to your calendar and it can say positive things to you 24. You can surround yourself. Like, there's a million things you can do. I know that's pretty cold and distant, but I'm just simply going, the information is available. It's not the how.
It's
the issue is
too.
Do you want to do the work? Are you willing to go through the pain? Are you willing to self-evaluate and dig in deep enough to do the work to make the how happen, to get into a learning zone of this instead of a resistance zone?
Well,
that was a little change management shout out right there.
I look at the pendulum of just human nature. And, earlier we talked about the flow state. And when you're in that flow state of, your confidence is just there. You just own who you are and what you do. And if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. And usually in the flow state, we have different patterns, habits, and routines. What we put into our body, what we're paying attention to, what we're watching, what we're reading, who we surround ourselves with influences that flow state. Flip side, you're exhausted. You're not taking care of yourself. For me, if I'm not working out, if I'm working 12, 14 hours a day and I'm not getting a day off, I notice my patterns and habits change and I don't feel as good about myself. Yeah. And I believe that's everyone. And so it's up and down. It's up and down. It's a conscious choice. What do we do? And in those moments where maybe we don't feel like the 100%, that awareness of, all right, so what do I want? What can I focus on? What can I do?
I would, based on how you guys are talking about it, I would say it's very much like working out, where if you aren't intentional with it day in, day out, week to week, you can fall out of shape. You can fall out of confidence just as much as you can fall into it if you keep up those habits and patterns. Because I was going to ask a setup question of like, as people go through Bold, do you see their confidence increase throughout the class?
100%.
But I know it's like, obviously, yes, of course. Like, I've been through class. I haven't seen too many of them, but I just know that's a fact. It is almost impossible to not build your confidence. It's the nature of the class, and it relates to their leadership inside of the business and out of it. But the differentiator is what happens outside of class. And that's like the question that we always, I don't know if we get it a lot, but it's what we talk about a lot, is like, what happens after Bold and how do you keep it going? And it is that support structure. It's the habits. It's all of those things. And so I think I think we've really contextualized it pretty well. And I swear we don't do this on purpose, but it is a really apt time to talk about Anchor Point, because we are launching Anchor Point on May 1st. And it is our community that we're launching, online community for Bold graduates specifically. And I think most people who listen to this have gone through Bold. And if you haven't, you can be a Bold graduate as soon as you email us, info@drivenleadership.com.
Shameless plugs.
But this is really the whole reason, at least for me. I think we all have our own motivators around Anchor Point, and it's all connected. But a big one is just like giving people a common ground. If you're that person that doesn't have a support structure, being around like-minded individuals, or at least like-minded enough to call the best out in you, to get you out of those ruts, to help you build your self-belief when you may not have the strength to do it yourself. So
Mhm.
we're really, really excited about that. If you don't follow us on socials, we have posted about it, but if you're listening to this
Yeah.
now, you know it's coming soon. Very excited.
love
Yeah. Can't
I
wait.
just
It'll
want
be
I want to
amazing.
say one thing to the
Please.
support structure. It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes in life where people have the ups and downs and they're in a place where they're not okay and the confidence starts to drop, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
When you see that, when you give yourself permission, know it's a season, and then shifting to, okay, so what can I do? What's 100% of my 10% today? What's 100% of my 30% today? And when you focus on that, it helps reset people. But yeah, whoever needed to hear that, I just want to say it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. I'm excited to, well, no, I'm not excited about anything. There's nothing to be excited about.
Anchor Point. We're excited about Anchor
Yeah,
Point.
there you go.
And it's Easter weekend.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Well,
Well,
they're going to hear
yesterday.
it after
It was
Easter.
yesterday,
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody. This has been really fun. Eric, Mary, appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next episode, everybody.
Bye.